take a turn.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the Hoopercast. I'm Connor, and on the phone with me today is Dustin. Hi, Dustin.
Hello, Hooper. Hello, everybody out there in the interwebs.
It's really weird to have you in my ears with a phone voice, but as we're listening to this, you have a regular voice.
Correct.
So
through the magic of podcast sorcery.
Yes. In the form of me not having internet and us having to use phones to communicate this time around.
Correct.
Just a little peek behind the curtain of the Hoopercast.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yes, so I will be relying on Dustin for all internet-related information pulling, and Dustin will be the library. I will just be whatever I am, whatever my purpose is here. That's what I will be.
You will be host. The captain of the ship.
Yes, so I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm shouting people. I can't use my inside voice today because Dustin has to be able to hear me and I have to be able to hear him. So if you have a problem with that, well,
no.
You know where you can shove that problem.
Yeah.
Shove it into a bag, right? Not, just put it in a bag.
The other thing that could happen today is like if our reception gets bad and you start breaking up on me,
mm-hmm.
or vice versa, there's some limitations to this.
Yes. So this will be a relatively short show, at least involving me and Dustin. My cable guy is going to be here any minute. So, we're going to get through as much stuff as we can before he gets here because then my wife said I have to go talk to him. So, I was planning on avoiding him and staying up in my little Hoopercast cave. Yo.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Your voice just cut out.
Oh, can you hear me?
Hooper?
Can you hear me, Dustin?
Hey, hold on. Say something.
Hello?
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 Hooper.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up on Dustin real quick, and then I'm just gonna call him back. But if he knows what's good for him, he will keep his recording going. So it'll be interesting to hear what he's saying while I call him back.
So for all you out there in the interwebs, Hooper just hung up on me. Presumably because of
this is quite odd. I'm going to keep this going for a little bit while I call Dustin back, get him back on the blower here.
Let me call him back.
Well, that's weird. Anyway, we're going to be talking about a few things today. What? That is so odd. What is happening? Let's call him back. Dustin was trying to call me at the same time. This is just great radio for you guys at home. If we keep all this in, we may not. Dustin.
What? I got his voicemail.
Now I'm going to call him. Well, hopefully he kept his
so I'm going to wait a few minutes and see if he calls me. Perhaps he will.
What is going on? Why isn't my stuff working? All right, here comes Dustin. Hopefully, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going.
Yo, you there?
Yeah.
Hey.
Okay, that was weird.
That was weird.
Well,
little hiccup, little glitch in the matrix there.
Right. We're going to talk about some stuff before my cable guy gets here, or my internet guy. Like I said, I was planning to stay up here in my little cave, but my wife told me I had to interact with this man when he showed up. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyway,
yes.
The first thing we want to get to is I told you guys in the last episode, what did I promise? I promised you that we would have updates on the box office of Fantastic Four and its critical standing. So, Dustin, do you have the numbers in front of you, like what it has on Rotten Tomatoes currently and or its box office?
Yep, let me pull it up. Hold up.
Because a few days ago, when it came out over the weekend, it was at a 9% when I was recording my portion of the episode last week, which was on...
It is still at 9%.
Oh. Yikes.
The opening weekend for Fantastic Four was $25 million.
Oh,
$25.6 million. And that does not include foreign as well. But, yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's just domestic.
Well, and it was what also happened over the weekend was the director Josh Trank, and this was like on Friday, I believe. I don't even think the whole weekend was over. It was either Friday or Saturday.
It was on Friday.
He basically tweeted out, he tweeted out that essentially it was not his fault. The movie being this poorly received critically was not his fault. That he had written, what did he say? He said like basically a year ago he had...
It says, I have it right here. It says, a year ago I had a fantastic version of this and it would have received great reviews. You'll probably never see it. That's reality though.
Wow. So Dustin, you and I talked recently about indie directors who are working for big studios and how it's great that you have these other successes and possibly a critical following. But the minute you sort of bite the hand that feeds you the studio you're working for, it's not great for your career. And even though I think Joss Whedon's thing was unprofessional and whatever happened with Edgar Wright, we'll never know. Like, who knows who's at fault there, but I imagine it was similar, just probably a little bit more dignified. This Josh Trank interaction just reeks of unprofessionalism to me because he trashed.
Totally.
Not only did he trash talk the studio and say that his idea was better, but he did it in the middle of the opening weekend of the movie. Like he threw him under the bus before the weekend numbers were even in.
Yep.
Which I think is classless, especially since this is your second film and your first studio film, and you're already thrown. I don't think he's not going to not work again. I mean, Brett Ratner still gets work. This guy's going to get work, but
yeah,
I
he's certainly
don't think it was a
not
good career
going to
move.
No, they're certainly not going to entrust Fantastic Four 2 to him, he's not going to have a big budget film in a while. And in fact, he was tapped for one of the Star Wars spinoffs. And if you remember, he was fired from that. Yeah, exactly. He was let go. Yeah. So that's just sort of case in point that, you, as you said, bite the hand that feeds you, then you're not going to be fed anymore. So, back to indie movies for you, it's not to say that he's not going to work again. It's just to say that it's going to be harder for him to work his way back up because he had already worked his way up. I mean, once you're handed the reins of a blockbuster, especially a superhero movie, like that's it. Like your career can be made from here on out. And, I mean, so for him it's just throwing his career away.
I was talking to John, who we'll hear later in the show with a review of his own of another movie. John and I were talking about this on Saturday, and he compared Josh Trank to Colin Trevorrow. Colin Trevorrow, maybe it wasn't Josh Trank's. Colin Trevorrow had directed one movie, and it was Safety Not Guaranteed, and then he got handed the reins to Jurassic World, and because he was professional and did his job and worked with the studio, it's the third highest grossing film of all time. That guy's gonna has a long career ahead of him. I mean, whether him and the studio butted heads on Jurassic World or whatever else, there's a bunch of variables at play, sure. And the studio that he did Jurassic World for was not Fox, so maybe that's a factor.
Right.
However, these are two indie directors who essentially have the same amount of experience. I believe, like I said, I don't know how many films Josh Trank has done. I believe it's just one. I think it was Chronicle.
Yeah,
and that's it.
It was just Chronicle, yeah.
Okay, so exact same situation. Two people have hit indie films or low-budget movies. They're both handed the reins to a big franchise, and one of them knocks it out of the park and makes the studio a ton of money and is now pretty much set for life and with a ton of goodwill towards him and money, and the other guy either look, Josh Trank has a point. Like I'm sure the studio is to blame for a significant portion of this film being bad, but you're the director And no matter how much the studio is breathing down your neck, the least you could do, if nothing else, would just be to lay down and give them what they want. And I'm sure this film would turn out okay. Like, it's not like studio notes are all terrible. So whatever he did or didn't do, you're the director. You shoulder at least half of the responsibility of this film, if not more. I mean, you're the one driving the ship. And if the studio, if this was all the studio's bad ideas, well, then you should have fought for some things. I think it's stupid and immature to basically say, hey, it wasn't my fault. As if people are going to say, hey, it wasn't his fault. Let's hire him for this next movie. They're going to say, there's a guy who is not going to play ball when it comes. He's not going to stand behind his work, basically.
Right, exactly.
And
I
think
get in the way of our box office totals.
Especially when part of your job is promoting the film, to come out and say, hey, we all know the film's doing terrible. I just want you guys to know it wasn't me. That's throwing your actors under the bus. I mean, that's throwing everyone else under the bus, and that's not cool, yo.
Well, see, but here's the thing. Josh Trank seems to, I mean, obviously I've never met the guy. I don't know anything about him. I've never even seen an interview with him, but he just comes across as a jerk. And all of these, like, if you listen to some of the allegations of the way he behaved on set for this movie, it's clear that it's not like he was super awesome and then Fox came in and was like, all right, we're going to change the third act, which if you read a lot of reviews, they're all saying that third act is awful. And it's not like the third act falls apart, but the rest of the movie is great and he was professional and he did his job as best he could and that third act just didn't work. You know, you could think of like Spider-Man 3, where there's obviously a lot of interference, but Sam Raimi does the best he can, and he stays positive and gets performances from his actors, and you know, Tobey Maguire isn't going to go off and be like, oh yeah, Sam was unbearable during that last film, because Sam did his job. Well, it's not like that's what happened here, because if you read these allegations, there are allegations that not only did he show up to work drunk and or high, he was
Josh tanked at work.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, not only did that happen, but okay, so listen to this. So the studio was obviously very involved from the get-go because they want Fantastic Four to be their big, you know, franchise, you know, that rides alongside something like X-Men.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we've done it before, so let's do it again kind of a deal. Well, so the studio was very involved in terms of casting. So there are a lot of allegations about who Josh Trank wanted to play characters versus who the studio wanted to play characters. So, for instance, Josh Trank really wanted Miles Teller as Reed Richards, but the studio did not want that. But they allowed it. So that shows me, A, that, okay, Fox has the final say, but they're allowing some creative freedom.
Right.
But then they did go as far as to say you have to have Kate Mara in this film, even though Josh Trank did not want her as Sue Storm.
That must feel great if you're her.
I know, right?
Going to work every day knowing your director did not want to hire you.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is what this article that I'm reading says, that Trank responded to that loss, you know, that clash with the studio there, by being cruel and cold to Kate Mara, depending on who you talk to. So,
yeah, I heard stuff like that too.
That, I mean, okay, so you're high, you're drunk, you're mean to your actors and actresses, you're, you know, belligerent and confrontational with the studio, and then when the movie comes out, you start bad-mouthing the movie, which throws every single person that worked on it under the bus, including the people like Miles Teller, who you wanted and tried his best to give you something that was worthy of your, you know, choosing him.
Right.
And then you throw him under the bus like that by allowing basically the studio not to make any money on the project. And then what? what's Miles Teller going to do next? You know, it's not like there's going to be a Fantastic Four 2. If you really respected Miles, then you would do everything in your power to make sure, even if I'm not in charge of Fantastic Four 2, he's going to play Reed in the next one. You know, you should have that level of respect for him. And, you know, it's just all of this stuff, not to mention there's allegations of, you know, the film was shot in New Orleans, and there's these also, they're saying that the rental house that Josh Trank stayed at, he caused like thousands of dollars worth of damage to this house.
I heard about that too.
And it's like, look, I understand, like, it's got to be a big thing to come from a world where you're like saving every penny on your set, and you're just like, let's reuse, you know, this piece of wardrobe, let's reuse this thing, you know, let's do as much today as we can because tomorrow, you know, we just have to, you know, pinch our pennies, right? So, and then to all of a sudden be thrust into this thing where you've got millions of dollars and you're living in this house that Fox is paying for, and all of this stuff, it's got to be like I don't want to say tempting to, you know, destroy a house, but I'm just saying, like, there's got to be like this burden off of you, right? This freedom to do what you want to do. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that all of this depends on you. Like, if you want your actors to have good chemistry and you want them to enjoy coming to set, then you have to enjoy coming to set.
You have to create the environment for them. Like, actors need to feel comfortable on set, even if they're doing some scene that's not like a comfortable scene. Like, they need to feel comfortable with you, and they need to trust you. And so if you're going to spend all your time on set making Kate Mara feel unwelcome because you didn't want to cast her, he sounds like a baby to me.
That's childish.
And that's not somebody who should be leading anybody. That's not leadership. And
no,
I mean, this is why, and Robert Downey Jr. had that thing recently where he basically said why he doesn't want to work on indie movies. And everybody I know from college, you know, like, basically came out and was like, well, maybe he needs to be a little more humble, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Robert Downey Jr. is actually one of the most humble actors out there. Like, when he knows where he comes from, and he's proud of his success, and he should be because he earned it. Like, he's not going to pretend like he was lucky. I mean, he auditioned for Iron Man. He got it. The studio didn't want him. And yes, his friend Jon Favreau fought for him, but he's grateful. So for people to basically come out in defense of indie directors, no matter what the context, I just see more and more examples of them being whiny and complainy and really immature for a bunch of adults who want to do film for a living. Like, I don't understand. Like, in a business, it's all about relationships. For you to pitch a fit like that, and especially, and treat your actors that way, like, I don't. That's crazy to me. That's asinine.
Yeah, it is. It's just like to me, it reeks of this like super self-important, you know, egotistical director who's like, I can do what I want, and, you know, I can treat you how I want because, hey, I'm in charge. And that's not even, like, that's not how it should be. Film is a collaborative process, even for the director. The director has to collaborate with everybody. Like, that's his job. Like, yes, there's leadership involved, but his job is to make sure that the DP, to make sure that, you know, the editors at the end of the thing are all getting their creative fill. Like, does that make sense?
Right.
So all of that aside, everything else aside, how he's treating everybody, all that stuff, if he's unable to collaborate to that extent, then he does not deserve to be a director of a feature film.
Right.
And that's what gets me. And there's reports that he was locked out of his own editing bay, and a significant portion of the film was edited without him.
Yeah, I think all the reshoots were done without him because he wouldn't do it.
Exactly. And it's just like, look, dude, play ball. You know what I mean? Like, do you realize how many people? I'm not even a Fantastic Four fan. I've never read a Fantastic Four comic. I've seen the first film. I never saw the Rise of the Silver Surfer. But if somebody offered me the chance to direct Fantastic Four, I would jump at it.
Like, we probably need to move on, but he, my whole contention is all he had to do was not fuck it up, and he fucked it up.
Exactly.
So
my thing is, regardless of the final product, all he had to do was stand behind it and be professional, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Right, exactly.
We would just say, like, yep, that was a misfire.
Right.
But you know, oh well. I mean, he did his job. He did what he was supposed to do.
Right.
It's ridiculous. I mean, nobody intelligent really blames Sam Raimi for Spider-Man 3.
Right.
Because he did his job.
Yeah, everybody... The assumption would have been that the studio interfered, but instead, when he came out and basically said the studio interfered, somehow it turned on him. It's like... Look, dude, you would have come out looking better if you just let us assume that it wasn't your fault, but you coming out and saying it wasn't your fault makes us pretty much go, well, that sounds like it's your fault.
Right. And just look at the MCU too. Like, just last point, right? The MCU is one of those situations where you come in and you're a director. Well, you've got your vision, but you have to fit within the framework of the MCU. And there are certain things that Kevin Feige is going to call you and say, all right, this and this and this needs to be in your film, and this and this and this needs to be taken out, because of what we're working on. If you look at something like Iron Man 2, it's clear there was a lot of like universe building in Iron Man 2, and maybe that was a detriment of the film. But Jon Favreau never complained about it. Jon Favreau never like threw anybody under the bus and said like, yeah, they hijacked my movie. I had a great cut of this. I had a great script that I was working on, and then all of a sudden it's not my movie anymore. Yeah. And that's the way that filmmaking is supposed to go. You have to know that, you know, in these types of situations where a franchise is being built, that even at the directorial level, the buck doesn't stop with you. It keeps going.
Well, and if you're going to quarrel with the studio, do it behind closed doors, but don't ever try to get the it was a low hanging fruit to try and get like the public and social media on his side, to basically go right to Twitter. That's like if your kid got in a fight with the parents and then went on Twitter and said, "My parents are grounding me. Can you believe this?" or blah blah blah. And it's just like, yo, you're dragging out some dirty laundry, and like, I know you're mad at us, but that's really uncool. You know, like that's one of the lowest things you can do is complain on social media about this.
Yep.
So I expected more of somebody who's over 17, you know? Right,
exactly. It's very high school.
Yeah. Well, I saw, John's going to talk in a minute. He saw the new Dragon Ball Z movie, The Resurrection of F. I saw the movie that was the prequel to that, the Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. So I don't have all the information in front of me, so I'm kind of doing this from memory. Everyone knows what Dragon Ball Z is. It's an anime show, came out of Japan, and it was redubbed in English and aired on Cartoon Network when we were kids, Dustin, and I was really into it. And then they sort of had a resurgence at a certain point when they edited them down and took out all the filler and condensed the episodes and cleaned up the animation and then redubbed it again. The company Funimation redubbed them again, and they re-released it as Dragon Ball Z Kai, and those are all really good. So I think maybe did they do the animation for these movies? I'm not too sure. But they definitely did the voices, the voice directing, like all of it on the audio end was done by Funimation. And so all the original voices that you would remember, not from the stupid Ocean dub, by the way, those people were terrible. I'm talking about the Funimation dub, you know, the popular voices of Goku and Krillin and Vegeta, Piccolo, you know, all these actors are back, and they're still doing DBZ. I mean, they're dubbing Kai. They're going to redub Dragon Ball Super when it comes to the United States, probably next year. Because that show's going on right now in Japan. So this movie, Battle of the Gods, is essentially... I really liked it, and I was real surprised because with it not being on television and stuff, they can show a little bit more like blood or kind of, you know, curse a little more, but not like, you know, Vegeta's not dropping F-bombs, but there, you know, a few more damns and hells and bastards in there, you know. And the animation's real good, and the story is basically that this is after the Majin Buu saga, but before GT. I think they're retconning GT. They're making all this take place in the 10 years between those two series. And essentially this destroyer of worlds named Beerus. This is an awesome name.
Yes.
It sounds like if my uncle was at a party and he was like drunk, he's like, I am Beerus.
That's what that sounds like.
But Beerus looks like an old skinless cat. He looks like a purple Mr. Bigglesworth wearing dressed like a pharaoh. So Beerus basically wakes up from like a 50-year sleep, and he's like, he hears that Frieza's been killed, and so he wants to find the guy who did it. And meanwhile, Goku heard about Beerus waking up because King Kai couldn't keep his mouth shut, and so they basically end up meeting anyway. And he's like, I want to battle the Super Saiyan God because I had a dream that I battled a Super Saiyan God. And Goku's like, I don't know what Super Saiyan God is, but I've got Super Saiyan 3. So him and Goku fight just for fun, and Goku, like, is no match at all. Like, can't even touch him. And so Beerus is like, well, I'm going to go down to Earth and see if and go to the other Saiyans that you know and see if any of them know. So he goes and asks Vegeta. Vegeta's like, I don't know. So basically what's happening on Earth is that they're having Bulma's, like, 38th birthday party. So Bulma's drunk, Mr. Satan is drunk, Chi-Chi's dad is drunk. Oh, Gohan gets drunk and dresses up as the Great Saiyaman. And it's real, and it's an incredibly funny movie. But the gist of it is essentially somebody ends up fighting Beerus, and there's always a lot at stake, right? Because if the person loses, he's going to destroy the Earth. So it's a real light, but most of the movie it's real light because most of it takes place at like a party, and Beerus ultimately just tries to destroy the Earth because he wants pudding, and Majin Buu takes all the pudding and licks all of it, and he can't have any pudding. It's an incredibly funny movie. Like, I was so surprised, but it's mostly funny. But there's all the fights you want in there. It's just it makes me really want to see the next one, the Resurrection of F, because not just because they're all funny, but like, especially if you've seen the series, you definitely need to see this film. The animation's real well done. The characters all shine. I mean, Akira Toriyama wrote these movies. Like, he's in charge of these movies, basically. So it feels a lot like Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, it's from the creator. It's got the Dragon Ball Z was always a funny show. It's just when we were kids, all the jokes were like a lot more either not they just weren't as fast or witty because they were dubbed over from Japanese, and it was from like 1993, and whereas these movies were made like 2 years ago, and just the voice actors have evolved and he's evolved. It's a lot of elements come together to make this a really funny, entertaining movie. Like, I keep stressing how funny it is because it just is. It's great. It's just so fun to watch, and
that's good.
And I really want to watch it again. I want to buy it on Blu-ray because it was a joy to watch. And that's awesome. So I guess I'm going to toss it over to John now because he's got the review of the sequel to this movie, which is Dragon Ball Z Resurrection of F, where somebody uses the Dragon Balls to wish Frieza back to life, and Frieza's got a new form. And so that's really cool, too. Snap. Yeah, so I'm going to toss it on over to John for his review. Hi, John.
Hello. I'll just give my brief thoughts on the latest Dragon Ball Z movie, which is called Resurrection of F. This film is a follow-up to Battle of Gods, and both were overseen by Akira Toriyama, who's the creator of the Dragon Ball universe. He wrote every issue of the manga and oversaw the production of the anime back in the day. So these two films alone had a lot of his input, and he came up with the story and even helped design new characters for it. And so that's important to know going into this film. And it helps if you saw Battle of Gods before seeing this film, because I would call it kind of a direct continuation of that film. If you're a fan of the Dragon Ball Z universe, you'll know all these characters, and you'll certainly know that Frieza is a fan favorite character, and that he's probably the big villain in the Dragon Ball universe. Of all the villains that the series has had, I would say Frieza is the most popular. So that being said, a lot of people were very excited when this was announced, and it's already been. It was released in Japan several months ago, and so the buzz has been building up for this film, and I got to say I enjoyed it quite a bit. As I did with Battle of Gods. And you can tell that Toriyama had a hand in crafting this story, and it really has that touch. It's a good mix of humor and action, and it has a lot of those character moments that I feel were lacking in the previous 13 films, which weren't bad, but I feel like this and Battle of Gods are really kind of a continuation of the story that was in the anime and the manga, as opposed to the other films, which just kind of felt like offshoots of that were kind of thin on plot and character, but were fun to watch. So the basic gist of this is that Frieza, who has been dead for many, many years in the Dragon Ball universe, is brought back to life by the Earth's Dragon Balls, and through a matter of training, he has become even stronger, and so he returns to Earth to destroy it, to kill Goku and his friends. So you're going to see a lot of the characters that battled Frieza in the series return, and you're going to see some characters that were introduced in Battle of Gods return, and so it's kind of a reunion of sorts, but there aren't nearly as many characters as they could have had in here. And I think they kind of weeded out some of the characters that you may not kill to see. And so it kind of focuses on the characters that you want it to focus on, as opposed to Battle of Gods, which kind of brought back every character since it had been over a decade since the Dragon Ball movie had come out. So, like I said, I really enjoyed the movie. I feel like there were some things in the plot that were a little implausible, but it was just little things, I think, nitpicky things. But overall, I think it delivered on two things that Dragon Ball always has to deliver on, and that's the story and characters, as well as kind of the action elements. Because I look at Dragon Ball as a very story-based work of fiction, and it has a lot of character to it and a lot of heart to it, and it has a lot of twists and turns in the plot, and it's very interesting. But I think most people know it as an action cartoon, and if you're a fan of that, then this movie won't disappoint. The animation is beautiful, and there is a ton of action sequences, well done action sequences throughout the film, and of course you get to see Vegeta and Goku fight Frieza again, which is pretty incredible. And I saw this on the big screen, so it was really great to see all these characters again in these gorgeous fight scenes on a theater screen. So it definitely delivers in terms of the action, which is really what the series is best known for. And then with that, you get kind of a return to form with some of these characters, too. Frieza is a character that hasn't been around for a number of years, so seeing him come back and seeing how being dead has affected his outlook on things. We see Frieza in hell before he's resurrected, and that kind of serves as a catalyst for his feelings throughout the rest of the film. He's very, very keen on getting revenge on Goku and his friends for killing him. So it's interesting to see him come back. It's kind of the same Frieza that we're used to. Not a lot of big changes within his character, but I think that was what most people wanted to see, was that old Frieza-Goku rivalry come back. And like I said, there aren't that many characters in the movie. It gets really to the core of what you want to see. So you're going to see Goku and Vegeta, Gohan, Krillin, Piccolo, and a handful of other characters. But, for the most part, that's about it. And Bulma is in the story, and a new character is introduced, and there are 2 returning characters from Battle of Gods that play a big role in the story as well. So, it delivers on that aspect as well. Like I said, all these characters feel like their iterations, like their correct iterations. They feel like those characters because of Toriyama's involvement in the story. The character continuity is there. The character integrity is there. These feel like the same characters that you grew up with. They don't feel like they're handled by someone else. They feel and act and behave like you would expect them to. And, this isn't a particularly complex or deep piece. It's a fun story in the Dragon Ball universe that is considered canon now. But overall, this was a really fun movie. I think as a Dragon Ball fan, I couldn't have been disappointed in it because it delivered on everything that I expected and wanted it to. So overall, I loved it. It's apparently doing really well at the box office. It was a limited release for a little over a week, and it's just been doing really well. So hopefully we'll get another one soon. And those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Well, thank you for having me, Hooper.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. Next week I will have internet. And Dustin, what comes out? What's in theaters this weekend? What's going to be what's opening this week? John said he was going to go see Straight Outta Compton. He's going to try and see it this weekend, so he can probably send us a review on that.
Awesome.
Because I probably will not be able to see it. So yeah, that's in theaters this weekend. So that's going to do really well because all the online buzz for that movie looks great. Like everyone's excited for that movie, and all those guys were in charge of it heavily, like executive producing it. So and especially Ice Cube. So I think it's going to be a really great film.
No, I would agree. I think it will be good. Also, this weekend, you'll be able to see The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which is the newest film from Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yeah.
Stars
Superman.
Armie Hammer.
Superman and the Lone Ranger.
Yes, Superman and the almost Batman from what's his name? Greg Miller's.
Yeah, from the Justice League.
Not quite made Justice League movie, yeah.
Yeah, Superman and one of the Winklevoss twins.
Exactly.
Or both of them, technically, I guess.
But they merged together.
Yeah,
so you get
just made one
Winklevoss and Superman. But yeah, I don't really know what to make about that movie, but Guy Ritchie is pretty.
He has a very distinct style, and I think it'll be.
He does, and
I think it'll be pretty fun to watch.
Record. Yeah,
he's a solid filmmaker. I don't like all his movies. I find it a little weird that a British actor is going to play the American, and the American actor is going to play a Russian spy.
Yes, that is strange.
Just that as a premise kind of irritates me. I know this whole thing in movies is like, hey, anyone can do the accent. I mean, it doesn't really matter where. And I'm like, yes, but maybe it's just a personal hang up for me because I'm like, okay, so you're a Brit pretending to be an American, and you're an Englishman pretending to be a Russian guy. Why don't you just get the guy who's geographically closer to Russia to be the Russian guy, and then you just talk normal?
Right, exactly.
Because me, just for me, it's like most people screw up whatever dialect they're trying to nail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever.
No, it's true. Yeah, I tell you, I guess what I'm looking forward to about The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a couple of things. I like the early 60s setting for secret agenting just because of James Bond.
Right.
So I like that, and I also like Guy Ritchie's style for the most part.
Yeah, it's good for this film.
It's a fun style. And on top of that, I would really like to hear Henry Cavill speak because I still feel like I haven't heard him speak a whole lot.
Yeah.
So... He's looking at you, Zack Snyder. That's your fault.
Right. Well, Guy Ritchie, and here's, I guess, what I will say positive about this man is that his movies never seem self-important to me.
No.
they're always just kind of fun. Like, it's a good movie of his, Rock and Rolla. I really like that movie.
Yeah.
It's just a little crime movie, not that big of a movie, but it's got a lot of great. So Idris Elba's in that, and he's British in it too, which is great.
I know, right? He gets to be himself.
Tom Hardy's in there when he was still skinny, and Jared Butler's in there, and he's actually real good because he's not trying to be an American or like a, whatever. He's just talking, or or a Spartan. He's just a normal dude,
right?
He's
just
from the UK. Yeah. So I think everyone's great. Yeah, check out Rock and Roll, everybody. But yeah, Guy Ritchie's got a solid track record. I have no real problems with him as a director. So
I really liked that first Sherlock Holmes movie too. I mean, the second one was okay. I think its story really suffered, but they're both shot very well and directed well. So,
and also with The Man from U.N.C.L.E., it's not a really well known property over here. So that's kind of why I know that. That's kind of why I hope that it's going to do well, because it feels like a passion project for him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a unique voice, and it's not something that we're all like, oh, don't remake that. It's not like he's making a Ninja Turtles movie. He's making
exactly.
He's resurrecting a property that that he pretty much has a blank slate with. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, it's true. So I don't know that I'll get out and see that this weekend. I still haven't seen the last Mission Impossible movie, but and that definitely takes precedence. But I would like to see The Man from U.N.C.L.E. for sure. So
is Mission Impossible still number 1?
Let me go back to Box Office Mojo. For the weekend, yes, it was. It still beat out. It's in its second week. And it beat Fantastic Four, which was number 2.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to send us an email about anything, most things, send it to hoopercast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter @hoopercast or on facebook.com/hoopercast. You can subscribe to the podcast on Podbean, hoopercastpod.podbean.com, or on iTunes. Just search Hoopercast. You won't get a lot of search results other than our podcast, so it should be pretty easy to find. Or you could go to the YouTube page, look for Hoopercast Pod for past episodes, and also Blogger and Tumblr, hoopercastpod.tumblr.com or .blogspot.com, where you can also donate to a PayPal link if you want to give us money, or you just want to give us money. So, Anyway, Dustin, always a pleasure.
Yeah, always fun. Thank you, man.
Yeah, dude. All right. Well, we'll see you all later. For now, I guess we're signing off. I'm Hooper. I drive the boat, and Dustin is just dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. You're my boy, Blue. You're my boy. Whenever I think of Dust in the Wind, I think of Old School. We're at the funeral where Will Ferrell's singing "Dust in the Wind."
I
close my eyes. You're my boy, dude. All right.
Let Hooper take a turn. Hooper drives the boat, Chief.